Now, we've oftentimes on this show discussed how right-wing talk radio is a house of cards. They get no listeners, and it's become a massive joke that they're even still on the air. Well, Politico had an article today that blew the lid off of this story and 100% exposed it. A Politico review of filings with the Internal Revenue Service and Federal Election Commission, as well as interviews and reviews of radio shows, found that conservative groups spent nearly $22 million to broker and pay for sponsors with Glenn Beck, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Mark Levin, and Rush Limbaugh between the first talk radio deals in 2008 and the end of 2012. Okay, so let me break this down for you. Some people might respond to that, well, who cares? What does that matter? Okay, so you have right-wing groups advertising with right-wing talk shows. It makes perfect sense. Quote, 90% of advertisers demand no Rush or no Hannity clauses. So this is really important. Do you understand that? Basically what that means is these shows stay on the air not because they're actually successful with their traditional means. The traditional means are, like any radio show or any TV show, the advertisers pay you, and then, that's how you make your money, and then you have to just keep your numbers up, your audience numbers up, and that's why the advertiser revenue will continue to flow to you. But what happens with these guys, the right-wing talk show hosts, 90% of the advertisers says, we're out of here, man. And that's for multiple reasons, because there was a backlash from the public for supporting these people because they're controversial and they say ridiculous things like the Sandra Fluke incident with Rush Limbaugh, among many others. And the other thing is that the ratings are terrible, and the advertisers finally caught on, and they said, oh, wow, we're wasting money by doing that. So they finally said no more. But that's where the right-wing think tanks come in, because they prop up these shows that are essentially failures. They're failures. They can't actually make it in a free marketplace, because in a free marketplace, your numbers have to stay high, and then the advertisers come in and pay you money. But again, 90% of the advertisers say we're out and your ratings suck. So it's just the right-wing think tanks that are keeping them afloat. Quote, Heritage began sponsoring Hannity in 2008 and paid $1.3 million in 2011. Last year, Hannity began doing ads for the Tea Party Patriots, lending his name to fundraising drives and hosting its leaders on his radio show and Fox News shows. So you're wondering how Hannity's getting paid? Again, and not from the advertisers, from the right-wing think tanks. Mark Levin, quote, the Koch brothers backed Americans for Prosperity paid at least $757,000 primarily to sponsor his radio show, a sponsorship that covered part of the 2012 cycle when he joined David Koch and AFP President Tim Phillips in boosting Utah Senator Orrin Hatch. Listen to this. This is great. After AFP ended its sponsorship with Levin, Levin began doing ads for the Tea Party Patriots, touting its campaign to fire House Speaker John Boehner, and he also apologized for endorsing Hatch, whom some Tea Party Patriots leaders opposed. So realize what happened there. When he was getting paid by a more traditional right-wing think tank that likes the establishment Republicans, he was cheerleading for Orrin Hatch, saying, oh, I back this guy, he's great. When that contract ended and they didn't want to pay him anymore because they saw his rating sucked, a Tea Party group stepped in. So a further right-wing group stepped in and started paying him, right? Then all of a sudden he started saying, no, fuck Orrin Hatch. He's an establishment Republican. We don't like him. We like the Tea Party Republicans. Gee, I wonder if that's because the Tea Party guys started paying him and the other guys stopped paying him that he changed his opinion. They're so bought and they're so for sale. They're so corrupt, and it is hilarious. I got more. Rush Limbaugh. The Heritage Foundation at the end of January ended its 5-year sponsorship of L. Rushbo's show, for which it had paid more than $2 million in some years and more than $9.5 million overall. In 2012, FreedomWorks paid at least $1.4 million to make him an endorser. So that's where Rush is getting all his money from, the right-wing think tanks. And another way that they scam the system and they get around the traditional means. Again, remember, I keep stressing this point because it's so important. The way radio and TV works, you need to get good ratings because the good ratings allow the advertisers to then come in and pay for ads on your shows so people can see it, right? But in this case, there's nobody's listening, and the advertisers ran away, but the right-wing think tanks stupidly came in and said, we'll prop you up. So ironically, these guys are welfare queens. They're subsidized. As they act like free market, free market. If you were in a free market, you wouldn't make it, son. You would have been fucking destroyed and off the radio a long time ago. But another way they scam the system, get this, the Senate Conservatives Fund paid at least $427,000 to purchase copies of one of Levin's books in September and October of 2013. So whenever the right-wing books get on the bestseller list, it's not because they're actually popular and people are buying them. It's because these right-wing groups buy the copies in bulk and then they send them out in gift baskets to people. Oh, that's awesome, man! It's awesome how nobody likes them, but there's this facade about right-wing talk radio that it's like, oh yeah, no, very popular, and liberals can't replicate their success. Yeah, I'm telling you. So, but we're not done yet. I'm getting to the best parts of the story. Dick Armey, who used to be the head of FreedomWorks, former politician, then he was the head of FreedomWorks, weighed in on this, and he said he, quote, opposed FreedomWorks contracts with Beck and Limbaugh as too costly. So wait a second. Now even the right-wing think tanks are like, I don't know why we're spending all our money on these guys. Their numbers aren't too good. You ready for this? Quote, Armey asserted that Beck, who at the time was trying to build up his own network, The Blaze, after leaving Fox News, expressed concern over the prospect that FreedomWorks might cancel his contract. The FreedomWorks-Beck alliance has been struggling, pointing to a $1 million line of credit the group was forced to take out in 2013 in the face of flagging fundraising. Glenn Beck's The Blaze is done. He doesn't have... The traditional advertisers don't like him. That's why if you watch his channel, all you see is like advertisements for gold coins and survival seeds and, you know, the Liberty Safe. Things that those advertisers don't pay dick, you know? But he gets his money from FreedomWorks. But now even FreedomWorks is like, here, take $1 million more as a line of credit, but your network isn't blowing up like we thought it would. This is kind of shaky. Story also came out today where Beck was talking about how he doesn't want to be in politics anymore. He's saying, oh, no, what I want to do is movies. He's trying to, transfer over into doing movies. He's working on 3 movies right now. He says, quote, I don't want to waste my life doing politics. That's a white flag if I've ever seen one. That's his way of saying, yeah, our network, massive failure. So I wasn't ever interested in politics in the first place. I don't want to waste my life doing this. What, are you kidding me? What happened, Glenn? It was like a year ago. You're talking about, The Blaze is so successful and we love it and it's great and we're going to be doing this forever. I don't like politics anymore. Could it be that you don't like it because you're losing funding? No advertisers, your ratings suck, and now even FreedomWorks is like, But here's the most important part. You ready? Here are the hardcore numbers. An internal FreedomWorks memo shed light on the fundraising return yielded by the sponsorships. Okay, so how did they do? The memo indicated that during the first 11 months of 2012, the Beck sponsorship had yielded $860,000 in contributions, while the Limbaugh sponsorship had brought in $433,000 in contributions. Ready? That's less than just 30% of the total that the group paid to the broker who set up the sponsorship in 2012. Okay. Done. Right-wing radio. Over. Mark my words. Within the next 5 years, right-wing talk radio will collapse. It will collapse. Do you understand what that means? The right-wing think tanks, FreedomWorks, they hired a broker to get a deal between them and Rush Limbaugh and them and Glenn Beck. The amount of money that Glenn Beck and Rush Limbaugh were able to generate and produce in return to help FreedomWorks was less than 30% of the money that they just paid the broker to set up the deal. Never mind the millions of dollars they paid directly to Beck and to Limbaugh and to the rest of these guys. Done. Can't survive like that. Can't survive like that. Even the right-wing think tanks now are going, we just spent how much money on these guys and they only generated how much money in return? We paid them millions of dollars and they only returned $433,000, $860,000. I thought this was going to be a lucrative deal. I thought we were going to be in the green. No, you're not only are you in the red, you are way in the red.